Hi, I'm Chris Gorbos. I've been in Australia for the past week teaching improv, both corporate workshops and long-form classes to students in Sydney through Laugh Masters. And it's been a great week. I'm sad that the week's over. Well, some of my observations about the community is that there's this kind of knowledge that there is the existence of long-form improv. However, I think that people are looking for a place to be able to do it here in Sydney. It seems as though it's a fertile ground for coming in and either teaching or performing long-form improv, in the sense that there's not a lot of options right now, and but there is definitely desire. I've talked to like 30 or 40 people, all of whom are so curious about what it is and so hyped to kind of like get involved with actually performing and learning about kind of American Chicago long-form style improv. There's two types of improv. There's short form and long form. Short form is kind of like whose line is it anyway? And long form is a single suggestion at the top of a piece and then an entire like half hour Herald or other long form that a group of people that are kind of operating as a team create. I think there's some short form here in Sydney, and I have nothing against short form at all. It's very, very funny. But if you look at kind of the types of people who are performing on television and in movies and who are in writers' rooms, they've all been trained in kind of long-form style improv. And it's great that Laugh Masters is bringing this to Sydney because it seems like there's a real need and a desire for a program like this here. So I think improv in your personal life is a great tool. I think one of the primary things of improv is active listening, and some people even call it hyper listening. And I think that if you're in a relationship, you can kind of tell when people are talking past each other or when you're talking past people just in your daily life. And I think that the act of actively listening to someone and responding to what they're saying, it can do nothing but help. And I think it helps in a big way. I think it makes people more patient. I think it makes people more understanding. And I think it makes people actually listen to the things that people are saying to them and incorporating what they're saying into kind of a response. And I think it builds conversations and relationships. It creates affinity between people. I still think that it can kind of like quell down any sort of, adversarial relationship, because, if you're really listening to someone, it can be tough to disagree for too long because you're actually taking in what they're saying. In a professional environment, it's great for the creative process. Long-form improv is kind of based off the theory of yes and it's great if you are in a collaborative kind of brainstorming, problem-solving area of your work. It can kind of help you build to solutions in a faster, more inclusive way. Also, a lot of times people in businesses, they feel as though like, they're being left out of the conversation, or they feel as though like, their job is their specific job and they shouldn't really contribute to any other part of the business. And I think that it really creates, in terms of problem solving, a more collaborative environment. In terms of like inner office, relationships between people, I think it's great as well for all the same reasons that it's great for your personal life. You're listening more, you're accepting what people are saying, you're acknowledging that you accept those things, and I think that that will help in your inner office relationships. Some of the big takeaways that I have from this week in Sydney are that it seems as though people are excited about taking class, and I think that Laugh Masters is doing a great job of trying to faithfully bring over long-form improv from the States. And I think it's one of the only places doing it in Sydney, and I think it's a really exciting time to be beginning improv in Sydney because you kind of have this like blank slate on which to play from. And I think it'll create a lot of great shows and a lot of great enthusiasm and a lot of performance opportunity that in a more kind of saturated environment might be more difficult to find. My overall impression of the talent that I saw in all of the workshops across the week, whether it was the actors workshop or the intensive during the weekend, was that they were able to do the exercises incredibly well. And when they did the exercises well, they saw the kind of benefits of the lessons that we were teaching. In the sense of, a lot of people more and more, improv is a must for an actor's resume. So just to have a basic understanding of how and why improv works is going to aid them in auditions and creative environments. So I think a great thing for the actors who took the improv workshop is that a lot of times, if you are in an audition and somebody says like, oh, we'll try this different perspective or make it your own, they're actually asking you to improvise. And you want to be prepared to kind of think on your feet and be spontaneous in that way. And I think this workshop was great with some of the exercises that we did for that. Also, a lot of actors that I spoke to here were like, oh yeah, I go to LA for a couple months a year, and you know, more and more in Los Angeles, if you're an actor auditioning for something, whether it's commercials or theatrical, you need to have some form of improv on your resume. It's just a tool that has kind of become like what seems like an essential for actors in Los Angeles. One thing I want to say about Australians is that I was talking to some of the other Australians in the workshops today, and I think that your language is like conducive to improv in a very cool way. Like there's a lot of like talk about mates and just in general like being very positive and warm people. And if you look at some of the principles of improv, like you're kind of already doing it. So like you should come in and learn how to do it with the byproduct of being funny, or the byproduct of having another skill set if you're an actor. So yeah, I had a great time here, and everyone was very, very warm and cool.